Welcome to the Indie Film Hustle Podcast, episode number 261. If not now, when? Eckhart Tolle.
Broadcasting from the back alley in Hollywood, it's the Indie Film Hustle Podcast, where we show you how to survive and thrive as an indie filmmaker in the jungles of the film biz. And here's your host, Alex Ferrari.
Welcome, my Indie Film Hustlers, to another episode of the Indie Film Hustle Podcast. I am your humble host, Alex Ferrari. Today's show is sponsored by Soundstripe. Now, Soundstripe is a music licensing website that allows you to download unlimited music for your latest projects. And once you download it, it is yours for life. You can use the music for feature films, short films, YouTube, you name it. And they charge just a fraction of the cost of what a normal stock music library would be. You can sign up for a monthly or a yearly subscription. And if you want to get 10% off your yearly subscription, just enter the code IFH and go to soundstripe.com. Today's show is also sponsored by Studio Unknown. Studio Unknown is a crack team of audio post professionals known for quality sound on any indie budget. Whether you need a lush surround sound mix or a quick festival submission pass, Studio Unknown can help you with all of your post sound needs, from sound design and mix to Foley, ADR, and even a custom score. Contact Studio Unknown and mention the Indie Film Hustle Podcast, and you'll get 50% off one day of ADR or 10% off your complete post-sound package. Just go to studiounknown.com. Now, if you thought that last week's episode was an insane story with Faith's movie Deuce of Spades and all her amazing adventure of making it over the course of 5 years, this week's guest will blow you away. He goes by the simple name Gough, and what makes him a unique story as a film director is that he is legally blind. That is right. He is a legally blind director who has directed tons of short films as well as documentaries, does interviews, and runs his own production company called Beernuts Productions out of Australia. And when Gough came to me and kind of reached out to me, I was skeptical that this was real. But as I did my research, I found out that it is real. And he has an amazing story to tell. And I wanted to have him on the show to just shut every filmmaker I've ever met up with excuses about why they can or cannot do something. And from now on, I hope everyone listening to this right now will never come up with an excuse on why they cannot do something. If a legally blind director in Australia is not only making the art that he wants to make and making money at it, and he's also running a company with employees that he is responsible for, can do it, what's your excuse? By the way, did I also mention that he's also the cinematographer, the editor, producer, and writer of many of his projects as well? We get into how he does all of it in this amazing conversation. So I really do hope you find this conversation inspiring. It inspired me. So without further ado, let's get into it. Please enjoy my conversation with Gough. I'd like to welcome to the show Gough, man. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me on, Alex. I appreciate your time.
Well, I mean, you reached out to me and told me about your story, and I'll be honest, I've never heard of a blind or a legally blind director before. So I needed to find out what's going on and how are you doing what you're doing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, yeah, I started up Beernuts Productions, which is my production company, back in 2006. And since then, we've made one feature film and 14 short films. So, we've been quite busy at the Beernuts Fun Factory. And I write, produce, and direct and edit all of the work. So it's all original, independent work.
So before we get into all of the technical stuff, I wanted to first ask you, how did you get started in the business? What made you want to get into the film industry?
Yeah, well, I've always been interested in writing. So it started off as writing, and then I had these scripts, and I'm like, well, I want to get these made. And people were like, yeah, we're not giving you funding because you're blind. And I'm like, well, I still want to get my work made, so how am I going to do that? And that's when I thought, well, why don't I just start up my own production company and get my own funding and do it myself? So that's kind of where it all started. So I've always had a love of writing and telling stories, and especially comedy. Comedy is my number one genre. And so, that's kind of where the production company all started from.
Now, I mean, but there was never a moment. I mean, I have to ask the question because it's like the elephant in the room. You're legally blind. So at any moment in time, did you just say, "This is crazy"?
Well,
to yourself,
because
I want to hear from your point of view.
No, well, the answer is a simple no. For the simple reason is because I've got a script, and I'm like, well, I think this is a really good script. It'll make a really funny film. So how can I get this made? And so, I don't. I was very lucky when I was at elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
I was very lucky to have a really, really great teacher who pretty much hammered into all the blind and vision impaired kids at the school that, you can do whatever you want to do. There's no barriers, You might
awesome.
take a bit longer, or it might need to be done a little bit differently to the other kids, but there's absolutely no reason why you can't get over the hurdles or find a way around the hurdles to do what you want to do. So that's been instilled in me from a young age. And so, when I've got a script and I'm like, well, how am I going to make this? And people won't give me funding. Well, I just need to figure out a different way to do it. So at no stage did I think, no, this can't be done. There's always a way.
That's amazing. What an amazing attitude about not only about filmmaking, but about life in general. Because, I mean, so many filmmakers get caught up in like, oh, if I don't have this, or if I can't get that, or I need all these perfect conditions have to happen, or they keep going down the same path every time and keep failing, and they don't make the connection saying, hey, maybe I should change something. Maybe I should figure a way around instead of trying to go through. And that's essentially what you do on a daily basis.
Well, you're exactly right. I mean, there's always a way. And look, at the end of the day, I'd love bigger budgets because that would mean I could hire more crew members. It means I could maybe throw a couple of extra jokes or stunts or whatever into a film that I'd like to do. But if that's not available to me, then I've got to go, okay, well, I still want to make this film. It's still going to be a really funny project. So I'll just rework the script a little bit. So I mean, the last film we did, I wanted to do, it's a mockumentary about the fitness industry taking the piss out of personal trainers and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I had to rework the original script just slightly because obviously some of the things I wanted to do I just wouldn't be able to do it on the budget that I had. So I just had to, and it didn't take away from the story in any way. In fact, I replaced that joke with a different joke. So I'm just replacing jokes. So, I write a script originally and then I sit down and think, okay, well, this is my budget. This is how much money I've got to make it. So what can I do? Do I need to change the script in some way? Or, how many cast can I afford? How many crew can I afford? And all that sort of stuff. So it's just about figuring it out. And then, there's always a way, if people are hung up on the little details, then, I think that more shows something about them being too frightened to actually get their feet and plunge into it, because there's always a way. There is always a way.
I'm so happy you said that. I mean, you completely hit the nail on the head. I think a lot of filmmakers do make up all these excuses because they're afraid. They're afraid of putting themselves out there. They're afraid of failing. That's why they get hung up on gear. They get hung up on, I need the best cameras, I need this lens, or I need this much money, I need this actor, as opposed to just going, I want to tell a story, and I don't care what I have. I'm going to look at what I have with me and do what I can with what I have right now. And that's what
absolutely.
You're doing.
And that's exactly what we do, and that's how we've been able to make 14 short films and one feature film in such a short period of time because, I've got the scripts, I've got the ideas, and, I've got a base crew now that I work with and, proper staff that I work with all the time. And so, I've got to keep them, employed now. It's got to the stage where I've got to keep it moving now. So it doesn't matter. Like there's always away. You know, in Australia, I'm sure I've been to America a few times. You've got the same phrase: is you need to grow a pair. You know, you gotta just do it, man. You know, if you sit on the sidelines, that's where you're always going to be, man. So you gotta get in there.
And what I love about what you're saying too is that you adapt and maneuver and pivot when something's not exactly what you need it to be.
Absolutely. So, for example, you were saying about equipment. So we've got Simon, who's my right-hand man, my main production man, he owns most of the equipment that we need. If we do need something else, we can see if we can get our hands on it. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, we use what Simon's got, and he's got really good stuff. I mean, he's got 4 cameras, so when we're having a chat I sit down with him and tell him the shots that I want for the film, he'll make the decision what camera he thinks is going to be best for that, and it's just which one out of his 4 cameras. Now, he doesn't have, $90,000 worth of camera to play with, but they're TV quality, they're proper quality cameras, but it's not your proper hardcore film cameras that we're using, but it still does the job. I mean, people can still see what's going on the screen, you know what I mean? So people need to, as you say, it's just about adapting to what you can do, and there's always a way. There really is.
Now, with the gear, how did you, on your first project, how did you teach yourself? Did you go to proper film school, or how did you teach yourself the gear just to be able to get what you need to do? And then we'll talk about your editing as well.
Yeah, so in regards to, because I actually shot the very first film, I had pretty much no money.
Sure.
So that's why I did a documentary. Again, because, there was a few reasons why I did a documentary. It's obviously very cheap to make a documentary because essentially it's just talking heads. Mm-hmm. So it's more about the planning and the research and all that sort of stuff for a doco. And so I pretty much I went down, I got a camera from a shop. I just went down and got the most expensive camera I could afford. Mm-hmm. And I've got a mate of mine who's a bit of an IT geek, so I got him over and we pretty much worked out how to use it. He taught me how to use it, and then I just sort of pointed and hoped for the best pretty much when it came to shooting the documentary. But it worked out fine. Again, it all worked. I mean, it's not the greatest film ever shot, obviously. You got a blind dude behind the camera. It's not going to be, incredibly framed or lit or anything like that. But it kind of, the documentary is about disability and mental health. So it does kind of prove the point of the film, which is that, blind and vision impaired people can do whatever they want to do, which is sort of the point of the documentary. And I think the fact that I actually filmed it and made it myself kind of also demonstrates that point in a subtle kind of way. So
it's very meta. It's very meta that way.
Yeah. So that was the doco that I shot. And then obviously when that made a bit of coin, I was then able to employ Simon, and other people were able to come on board slowly and surely to make life a little bit easier for me when it came to shooting the projects.
Now, and then how do you edit? Because you do all your own editing, so I'm fascinated about that.
Yeah, so I edit by audio. So my first job out of high school was working in radio as an audio producer. So I was basically doing all of their commercials and promos and all of that kind of stuff. So that taught me how to edit, because obviously editing audio with radio is reasonably straightforward. Takes a bit of time to learn how to do it. But so I learned that's sort of how I learned how to edit. So when I'm editing, I do it all by ear. So once the joke or whatever, the line is concluded that I want to be finished, I'll know when to cut. That's when I cut. That's my edit point. I'll cut it there, and then we go to the next scene or the next angle or whatever I want to do. So I edit by audio, just purely by audio. And then now I've got Simon who sits next to me. So if it's a scene, for example, of somebody getting out of a car, for example, so I'll say to Simon, that's my edit point. That's where I want it to finish. And he'll make it so it matches up. So when the person's getting out of the car, so we go from interior to exterior, it all looks seamless. So he makes it, the visual part of it marry up for me, but I tell him where I want the edit to actually sort of happen, and he just makes it nice and neat for me.
I mean, I got to tell you, man, I've heard so many Saab goddamn stories from filmmakers with all these goddamn excuses that I hear all the time. And man, you just don't care. And I love that about you. You just like, you know what? I'm going to go do this. And the hell with everything and the hell with everybody else. No one's going to stop me. And I'm going to go. And I just wish more people would have that energy to them, man. You truly are an inspiration, man. I can't tell you enough.
Well, it's what I've always wanted to do. I mean, when I was a little kid, like I said earlier, I loved writing and telling stories. And so, I'm sitting at home with these scripts and I'm like, well, I want to get these made. At the time I was working in radio, as I say, and then at nighttime I was doing stand-up comedy for a living as well. So I'm doing comedy at night, working in radio at day, which was great. That was fine, but it's not really what I wanted to do. I wanted to make these scripts. And so the bottom line is, well, if I've got – because, look, I love entertaining people and especially making people laugh. That's what I really enjoy doing. And so – I've got these scripts and I think they're going to make people laugh and they're going to entertain folks. So let's make them. Let's get it done. So that's what I do. And so, I mean, editing, I actually think it works a little bit in my favor because I'm not distracted by the little things when I edit. I'm just purely listening for the actor's delivery. So when we're going through the different takes, I'm listening for their delivery, making sure their tones and inflections are exactly what I'm wanting. And then I go with that take. And then Simon will say to me, oh, look, we can't use that because, he's looking to the side or he's staring right in the camera. So, okay, well, we can't use that take. But I always go by sound first and foremost because especially with comedy, I mean, if a joke isn't delivered quite right with your tones and your inflections, it's just not funny.
And also the timing. And also the timing is so important.
Absolutely, 100%. It's just not funny. So that's my number one thing is it's audio has got to be spot on. So I always – so I guess I said to Simon, it's kind of like I'm editing a 90-minute radio commercial. That's sort of how I look at it. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Now you obviously have crew as well that works with you. How do you deal with? Because it's tough enough handling crew when you can see, let alone when you can't. And I'm sure you've gotten attitudes. I'm sure you've gotten all sorts of stuff. How do you deal with crew?
Well, yeah, I mean, it did take a while to find a group of people who I could absolutely trust. I mean, I had a cameraman once who I had to sack because he just kept filming his own thing. And, we get into the editing suite, and I'm like, what the fuck? That's not what I asked him to do. It's a completely different frame, it's a completely different shot. What's he doing to me? So he had to go. I just can't have people going rogue on me, obviously, because I can't. It's too. Once you're in the editing room, it's too late then because we haven't got the budget to go back and reshoot anything. So I'd need a group of people I can trust, and it's also a responsibility on me to make sure that I communicate my ideas really, really clearly with the actors and the crew so they know precisely what I'm after. So if you come to one of my sets, it's run a lot differently, obviously, to a normal set because of that sort of – so, for example, with Simon, when he's framing a shot, I'll be super clear. So I won't just say, I want a wide medium or anything like that. I'll actually be really specific. So I'll say, I want you to shoot from just above his navel or just above his belly button, and you're going to go to 2 centimeters or half an inch above his head. And that's your shot for this particular frame. And he's like, okay, no worries. So it's just about me being really clear with what exactly I want everything to be like. And same with the actors. I mean, I drive the actors insane because I'm forever just listening to how they're delivering the lines. And if they get a word wrong or they stumble, stop, start again, do it again. So, yeah, it's just about me being really, really clear and communicating my ideas really clearly with everybody so everybody knows exactly what they need to be doing. And also so that everybody knows what everybody else is doing as well, because that's equally important.
No, I can imagine you could be a nightmare for an actor because all you're doing, you're not being persuaded by their performance visually. It's all about the audio. So if a syllable is off, that's all you've got to hold on to. So they got to hit their line perfectly. Yeah. That must be a nightmare for them sometimes.
Yeah, some of them are really cool and they like it, because they want to do a really good job and they want to get it right. And they enjoy that. And some of them don't like it so much at all. So, yeah, it's it's a little bit 50-50. Some of them really don't dig it because, they're like, I'll deliver the lines. That's my job. I'm the actor. But some of them really love working with me and just nailing it absolutely perfectly. So, again, and then, if I have someone who doesn't like the way I do things, then obviously they're not going to work with me going forward. So, it sort of weeds people out a little bit too, So,
now, and how do you,
yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but how do you do the castings? Like, I'm sure that actors that walk in, they're like, I'm sorry, the director is what? I'm sure that's happened a few times.
So I actually do the castings myself for the simple reason, and I don't understand why more writers, directors don't cast their own projects, and it's because I wrote it, so I know exactly how everything should be delivered. So when an actor comes in for an audition, I don't want somebody else interpreting my script. I know exactly what that character is supposed to sound like, supposed to make me feel and all of that sort of thing. So I run my own auditions, and again, I do it very differently. So a usual casting would be probably 5 minutes long. Mine goes for about half an hour because what I make them do, I tell them not to memorize any portion of the script. We're going to go through all your lines. We're just going to read it, do like a table read with you and me, and I'll see how you go. And it's just about me seeing how they're going to interpret the jokes and the character and all that. And it also gives me a good feel for their attitude and how they're going to be able to work with me and all that sort of stuff as well. So, I'm really, really. And the other thing I don't like is improvisation. I spend a lot of time writing my scripts. So when they come in for an audition, I'll say to them, look, no improv. You've got the script. So I just want to see how you go with the lines. Let's rock and roll. And so, it goes for about half an hour, and I get a really solid idea then of who they are as a person, how they are as an actor, and how they're going to go with this character and these jokes.
Now, we'll be right back to the show in just a minute, but we got to pay some bills. So I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Blackbox. Blackbox is a new platform and community that is all about financial freedom for filmmakers like you. If you join Blackbox, you will be transformed from being a worker to being a maker of your own content. And you'll be making steady passive income from the global market. Blackbox currently allows you to upload your stock footage once, get it to many global agencies, and then allows you to share that passive income stream with your collaborators. Whether you want to submit old footage that's been sitting around in your hard drives or create brand new content, Blackbox is for you. It's really quite revolutionary. With Blackbox, filmmakers can concentrate on making great content while Blackbox takes care of all the business BS. Just visit www.blackbox.global to find out more. And now back to the show. Now, how do you handle other parts of pre-production like location scouting or building of a set or things like that, since you're not visually seeing how much? And you aren't completely blind. You do have some sight. What are the limitations and how do you handle it?
So locations can be tricky. Luckily, I try. Again, this all goes down to the writing. So when I'm writing something, after I always write it with no limitations, and then once I edit it, that's when I'm thinking about my limitations. So when I'm editing it, I'm thinking about the locations. What do I know that is, where have I been? So with the last one we did, which was a day in the life of a personal trainer, I'm like, okay, I need a gym. So the gym that I actually attend wouldn't let me film there because they're jerks. So I'm like, okay, so I need to find a gym. So I asked a few mates of mine, do you know of a good gym? And so one of them said, yeah, I'm good mates with a woman that runs a gym. So I called her up and I said, can I come down and check out the gym? She said, sure. So me and another production guy that I had on my team, we went down there. He took some photos and stuff for Simon to look at. But she pretty much just gave me a tour of the gym. So, this is the leg press, this is the this is the that. And so we walked around and it turned out to be a really, really great venue to shoot at because she had everything that we needed and there was plenty of space and all that sort of stuff. So it was really cool. But, yeah, it's about trying to find places that I kind of already know, and then if I don't, I just have to ask as many people as I can find because it's not like I can just get in my car and drive around town and look for places. So it's just about sort of improvising the best I can and trying to work my way around it. So we needed 6 locations for the last film I did, and some of them were really tricky to find. The public swimming pool was hard. The cafe was tricky as well, but it's about sort of just, finding resources where and how you can, it really is.
Now, how do you make money with your films?
So people just go onto the Beernuts Productions website and it's direct download. So there's no third-party involvement. So people just download our projects directly off the website. So I'm production and distributor all in one. So it's a completely independent process that I do. So, yeah, people just, like I say, they just go to the Beernuts Productions website and they can download any project they want directly off the website.
And now do you is this the only revenue stream from these projects?
Yeah. I don't on-sell them. I don't go to festivals. I don't do any of that sort of stuff. I just concentrate. I kind of describe it because I have tried that sort of stuff in the past, and it's a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. It's all very political, and it's all, it's very time-consuming, and it can cost you a lot of money as well. And so I figure I described it to one of my production crew the other day as in, I'm going to play football in this field over here, and you're all welcome to come over to my field and play football, but I don't want to go to your field and play football because it's just too busy and it's too much for me. So I'm just going to stay in my field and play football, and you can all come and play football in my field. So that's kind of how I look at it. I do my own thing, and they can do their thing, and hopefully people come and they check out my work and they enjoy what I do.
Now, do you I just had a brain fart. Sorry. First of all, what's the next project you got going on?
Well, I'm in I get in sort of mood. So I'm in a mockumentary kind of a mood. So I've done a few mockumentaries. The last one, like I say, was all about the fitness industry. I've done one all about the so-called war on drugs. I've done one about the environment, and I've done one about the pornography industry. And so I think I'm going to do another mockumentary. I'm just in the process of finishing the writing of a couple. I've got a few little things going on at the moment. I just need to decide which angle I want to go with it. But it's all about the promoting of the fitness one at the moment, because that one's only like 2 weeks old. So
nice.
That's the So that's the one we want people to go and watch and laugh and enjoy.
Now, how do you get people to come to your site and actually buy stuff and watch stuff? How do you marketing?
Well, through kind people like you, Alex, letting me come on your podcast and telling people all about beernutsproductions.com. It's all about, I mean, you are, in all seriousness, you are correct. Marketing is by far and away the biggest challenge I have. There's no question. So I've got Amy now she's been with me for just on 2 years, and she does all my marketing stuff for me, and she's incredible. She's helped me tremendously over the last couple of years because, I mean, that's not something I've studied at university or knew much about, so I was just sort of doing the best I knew how to do, and then when I had enough money to employ someone, I was like, yes, finally, I can actually get somebody with some skills in this area. So she's great. So, yeah, it's all about just obviously I'm all over social media, so Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. Just type in Beernuts Productions and I come up, and you'll see all kinds of little ads and promos and all sorts of stuff there to get people over to the site. And then obviously doing media interviews, so TV, radio, podcasts, any magazines, blogs, whoever will have me on, pretty much I'll chat to them and tell them all about the great work that we're doing at Beernuts Productions, and hopefully enough people hear me and come and hit up the website and download and enjoy our work. Now,
you actually have a staff, or you have people that work with you all the time, that you have like a kind of do you have a big staff, a small staff that you constantly do it, or is it a per project kind of thing?
No, I've got about I've got 4 permanent staff, and then it's then I employ as I need. So obviously the actors are contracted for when I need them,
crew as
and then.
Sure.
Same with any extra crewmen. I've got my key crew that I always use, but if I need, and I mean, we did a film a year or two back now that needed an explosion, so I had to hire a couple of special effects guys to do the explosion for me, which was really cool. I've never blown anything up before. It was a lot of fun. I can't wait to blow something up again, to be honest.
It is quite fun.
It is. Actually, just really quickly, the guy, Chris, who was the head explosive dude, I said to him as he was setting up the charge, I said to him, how long have you been doing this, Chris? He said, 19 years. I said, you've still got all your fingers. That's a very good effort. So, yeah.
That's a good sign.
yeah, absolutely. So, but that was a lot of fun. So that actually people can, on the homepage of the Beernuts Productions website, people can see that explosion video because it was a little 30-second commercial I did to promote the production company. So, yeah, that was a really fun little shoot that we did. Yeah,
if you definitely don't want to hire the pyro guy that doesn't have a few fingers. That's not a good sign.
Half an arm and no eyebrows. You'd stay away from him.
Not probably a good guy for pyrotechnics. Now, Gough, I gotta ask you, man, what keeps you going, man? What keeps this dream going? Because you've been doing this now for 12 years at least with a production company, and I'm sure you were doing things before then. What drives you? What kind of keeps things going for you, man? Because I'm sure there's ups and downs like everybody.
Oh, absolutely. It's not one big. I mean, like I said earlier, I would love to have bigger budgets, and I could have more crew, which would make life a lot less stressful. I could, I wouldn't have to worry so much about finding locations because I could build some awesome sets. I mean, I'd love to have bigger budgets, but at the moment, that's just not possible. But to answer your question, I got asked this actually the other day, and it's really quite a simple answer, and that is that there is 7 billion people on this earth, and I won't be satisfied until all 7 billion people have watched a Beernuts Productions film. I mean, I want to entertain everybody. I don't discriminate. I think everybody needs to see my nonsense and be entertained by it. So I just want to entertain folks, and so I've got scripts that I've still got a bunch of scripts that I want to make. I've still got a bunch of ideas that I want to turn into really entertaining films. So I just want to entertain people. That's what I think. That's what I was sort of born to do, is just to make people laugh and entertain folks. That's what I thoroughly enjoy doing.
And I think you also were born to inspire. Don't. Oh. I think there's a little bit of that as well in you, sir.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Alex. But look, at the end of the day, when someone watches one of my films and they're having a laugh at a joke or whatever, and for that moment in time, they forget about the fact that their wife's just left them, or they've just they've got some money troubles or whatever. Yeah. It takes them out of themselves, and they can get a bit of enjoyment from something I do, and that's a real buzz to be able to do that for somebody. To make them laugh and to make them happy for a little while. I think it's a really important thing to do. And there needs to be, in the world we live in today, Alex, there needs to be more of that, There needs to be it's a real shame that there's not more independent films out there that can entertain folks, and so people can, have a good laugh and get some entertainment, So, yeah.
I'm trying to get the word out, man. I'm trying to help them. I'm trying to get more of these out there.
No, well, that's why podcasts like yourself are so important, so that people like me can come on and tell folks about, Beernuts Productions and their production company and their scripts and their ideas, and people can go and get themselves entertained and enjoy themselves and watch some really quality, because there's some really fantastic independent entertainment that doesn't get watched, and it's really sad. So, people need to be encouraged, like you do. People need to be encouraged to go and hunt out that independent entertainment and get themselves, even if it's a live band or a comedy club in their local town. They've got to support that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. No question about it. So I'm going to ask you a few questions I ask all of my guests. What advice would you give a filmmaker wanting to break into the business today?
Well, I think I probably summed it up better earlier when I said grow a pair. You just got to do it, man. I mean, seriously, if you put obstacles in your way, then that's you putting obstacles in your way. The only person stopping you is you. So you just need to find a way. There's always a way. I mean, I wasn't able to get traditional funding, so I made a documentary. I put that online. I got sales, and then I was able to make another film and another film. And I mean, it's not the kind of a financial planner probably wouldn't recommend my business model, but, at the moment it's working, and so we'll stick with it, So you just got to find what works, and get stuck in.
there's at least 4 or 5 T-shirts in everything you just said. At least 4 or 5 T-shirts that you could put what you just said on it and sell them. I'm serious. Now,
well, if you do that, I want at least 20%.
Obviously, sir. Obviously. Now, what lesson took you the longest to learn, whether in the film industry or in life?
That's a really good question. I guess, just not to take things so personally, and not to get down on yourself and on the situation, because it is difficult. I mean, especially when you have a disability. I mean, someone says to you, you can't do that because you're blind. I mean, that's discrimination. I mean, it's no different to racism. You can't do that because you're black. You're not going to sit on this bus, or you're not going to go sit in this restaurant because you're black. It's no different. You can't do this because you're blind. And as a little kid, you think to yourself, well, how would you know? You don't know me.
Right.
What would you know what I can and can't do? I just met you 5 minutes ago. How dare you tell me what I can and cannot do? That's really disrespectful. It's rude. It's inappropriate. I mean, and it affects people mentally. That's why I made the documentary as well, because a lot of people, especially in Australia, who have a disability, also then go on to have some kind of mental health issue as well because of the high levels of discrimination they face. So and I was no different. I mean, there was a time there where I was, really, really down because of people were just going, no, go away. And I'm like, but I've got this really funny script. And they're like, well, we don't care how good your script is. Go away. And then so it can get you really, really down. So I suppose it took a long time for me to sort of figure out, well, screw them. What do they know? You just got to – and it's easier said than done. I mean, I know I say, you just got to grow a pair and get into it. And it is true. That's what you need to do. But it is easier said than done. But at the end of the day, you just have to suck it up and do it, really. I mean, and it did take me a long time to sort of get my head around that. It really did.
I mean, and it is hard. It is easier said than done. But what choice do you have? If you want to go down this road, you've got to jump in the game. If you want to play, you've got to jump in the game.
Absolutely. That's precisely. I mean, I'm not ashamed to say I saw a few psychologists in my time, and one of them said to me, well, you chose this industry, so
you're not a prisoner. You're not a prisoner.
That's it. You're the one that chose this industry to be in, so what are you whinging for? Just go on, do it.
If you want to get hit by a car, you got to step in traffic.
Absolutely. You like she said, this is what you keep saying you want to do, so do it.
Right.
And she is, I mean, again, it is easier said than done, but at the end of the day, she is correct. I was the one that chose to do this as a career path, so therefore it's up to me to make it happen. So, I mean, it's the same if you want to be a cook, if you want to be a builder. Yeah. If you choose to be a bricklayer, that's your passion in life is to build houses, then start building houses, But, it's just about making sure that those people, those ignorant people that want to put you down, you don't allow them to affect you mentally and affect your mood. You have to find a way to move past that and to move on, and that is the tricky part.
No, it's so true. I mean, there's so many filmmakers out there who are like, oh, this business, I it's not letting me do what I want to do, and I want to do this or I want to do that. I'm like, well, do it. We're in a place now where you do. If you want to write. Writing is the cheapest thing you could do in this business. You can have 30 or 40 scripts sitting there, and it costs you nothing to do.
There's a very famous Australian. He ran a wonderful sketch. If people jump on YouTube and they just they should be looking up Beernuts Productions or Indie Film Hustle. Obviously. But after they've done those two things, there was a guy called Mcfadden who did the Comedy Company in the 80s here in Australia. And it was a sketch comedy program that was massive here in Australia. And I saw him speak because he's now a lecturer at university. And I actually went to one of his speeches. And he actually said, look, it has never been cheaper and easier to make a TV, because he's all about TV. Mm-hmm. So he said, it's never been cheaper and easier to make a television show, but it's never been harder to get it seen. So He said He said, if you gave me $8,000, I could give you a half-hour sketch show, but then getting it onto the networks and getting it seen, that's the tricky part. He said, it used to be the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be really expensive to make stuff. He said back in the 80s when we were doing the comedy company, it was really expensive to make it, but it was really easy to get it on television because there was nothing else for them to air. So they would, but I mean, everybody's got reality shows and all sorts of crap that they're punching through. So it's, yeah, and he is correct in what he says. It is true. It's never been easier to get stuff made because the equipment's cheaper. You know, everything's cheaper and easier to do with digital. I mean, things are easier to edit. They're easy to put together. You can put in special effects easier. Everything's easier to do. It's just harder to get it out there and get it seen. So that's where the shift has been.
That's why the marketing and the social media thing is so important.
Absolutely, 100%, yeah.
Now, what are 3 of your favorite films of all time?
That's a good question. I've got so many, though. It's hard for me to narrow them down. I'll go with I kind of go with more obscure sort of dark comedies. There's an English film called Still Life that I really, really love. Again, probably nobody but me has seen it, but it's a really, really fantastic, really dark comedy, which I really love. Thinking more commercial, I really loved – actually, there's 2 Jim Carrey films that I really love, and they're not the ones that people probably would naturally assume.
Cable Guy?
No, not the Cable Guy.
That's a dark comedy. That's why.
To be honest, to be fair, I didn't think that was as bad as everybody else thought.
It wasn't as bad. I liked it. I actually enjoyed it too.
there was some funny lines in there, man. I didn't think it was that bad. Anyway, so I really love you, Philip Morris. I thought that was so funny and so cleverly made. The way that's directed is just genius. They're so clever. Those boys do some really good films. It was so well made and so funny, and he was really great in it. And also, I love The Truman Show. I thought that was a really fine film as well.
Classic. That's a classic. But it's a masterpiece what they did in that film.
It is. I just like both of those films because the ideas are so well. I mean, I know I Love You, Philip Morris is a true story, and I often find I really enjoy watching true story films. I find them to be really interesting. But I know that's true. But the story's so unbelievable. It's just, and the way they did it's so funny. And like you say, Truman Show's just a classic, and it's such an original idea because it was reality television before reality television even existed.
Yes.
So it was a really clever idea. And again, the way they made it was so clever. And I tell you, who's underrated in that film is Ed Harris, the bad guy.
He's wonderful.
He was the best villain. I didn't see him as a villain, but he so well cast because he was creepy as hell.
He was amazing. He was amazing in that movie. So Gough, man, thank you. Well, first of all, where can people find you? I know we've mentioned it a few times in the show, but just to be clear, where can people find you and your work?
Absolutely. Beernuts Productions. So people need to have a beer, get some nuts, and watch my productions. So, yeah, just beernutsproductions.com, and they'll find – we've also got – on there we've got audio downloads and books as well. So there's so if they don't feel like watching a film, they could download a couple of the audio sketches that we've done or read one of the books as well. But yeah, so there's plenty up on Beernuts Productions to entertain them. And like I say, all over social media. So make sure you hit up YouTube and Facebook and all of that stuff, and you'll find Beernuts Productions everywhere you look.
I'll put all those links in the show notes. Gough, thank you so much for coming on the show and showing people and showing the tribe that there is nothing that's stopping you other than yourself, and you could just do it. Just as you say, grow a pair and get in the game.
Absolutely. And look, Alex, I really appreciate your time, and it's been a lot of fun chatting with you today.
Like I said before, I don't want to hear any excuses from anyone anymore. Gough is an inspiration, man. I mean, how he could just keep going no matter what is a testament to his ability to just go and hustle and move and make it happen no matter what. So, Gough, thank you so much for sharing your amazing story with us. And I really do truly hope it lights a fire in the ass of every filmmaker and tribe member listening today. And if you want links to Gough and his work and anything else we talked about in this episode, just head over to indiefilmhustle.com/261. And if you haven't already, please head over to filmmakingpodcast.com filmmaker.com and leave us a good review on iTunes. It really, really helps us out a lot. And I want to thank all of the tribe who've been sending all of these amazing emails and messages congratulating me on my film On the Corner of Ego and Desire getting into the Rain Dance Film Festival. It means so, so much. And thank you for sharing your stories with me as well about your projects and what you're doing. So keep going, guys. No matter what happens, it is up to you to make your own fate. It is your job to make the life you want. As always, keep that hustle going. Keep that dream alive. And I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Indie Film Hustle podcast at indiefilmhustle.com. That's INDIEFILMHUSTLE.com.